So now let's look. Where does God live? What did Solomon, the wisest man to ever live, believe? 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 13 through 54. Verse 13. I have surely built thee an house to dwell in, and settled a place for thee to abide in forever. Verse 22. And Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the congregation of Israel, and spread forth his hands toward heaven. Verse 27. But will God indeed dwell on earth? Behold, the heavens and the heavens of heaven cannot contain thee. How much less this house that I have built? Now, most people stop here, but Solomon goes on to say in verse 28, Yet have thou respect unto thy prayers of thy servants, and to his supplications, O Lord my God, to hearken unto the cry and to the prayers which thy servants pray toward thee today. Verse 29, that thine eyes may be open toward this house, night and day, even toward the place of which thou hast said, My name shall be there, that thou mayest hearken unto the prayers which thy servants shall make toward this place. So where does Solomon believe God's dwelling was? Like I said, most people stop at those first verses and say, God's so big he fills eternity. And they leave it there. But Solomon explained where God lives. Let's look at several verses. We'll pull out aspects of what Solomon said. Verse 30, And hearken thou to the supplication of thy servants and of the people Israel, which they shall pray toward this place. Hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place. Verse 32, Then hear thou in heaven. And in verse 34, Then hear thou in heaven. Verse 36, Then hear thou in heaven. And in verse 39, Then hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place, and forgive. Verse 43, Hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place. Verse 45, Then hear thou in heaven thy prayers and their supplications, and maintain their case. Verse 49, Then hear thou their prayers and their supplications in heaven thy dwelling place, and maintain their case. Verse 54, And it was so, that when Solomon had made an end of praying all this prayer and supplication unto the Lord, he arose from before the altar of the Lord, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread toward heaven. So here we see that Solomon, in praying to God to fill the house of his temple, to see God's people, when he was telling them, he said it 8 times here, God's dwelling place in heaven. Now let's look at Psalm 33, verse 13 and 14. The Lord looketh from heaven. He beholdeth all the sons of men from the dwelling place of his habitation. He looketh upon all the inhabitants of the earth. And in Psalm chapter 11, verse 4 and 5, The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. And in the New Testament, Matthew chapter 6, verse 9, After this manner, Jesus said, pray. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So we can see that God the Father lives in heaven and looks down to the earth, and at times has come down to earth and fellowshiped with man. And there is coming a time when God will move heaven to earth to live with man forever.